Alrighty. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's time to call to order the meeting of the City of Bloomington Committee of the Whole. And no pledge of allegiance today, so we're just going to go with roll call.
Councilmember Kearns? Here. Councilmember Bolin? Here. Councilmember Motney? Here. Councilmember Dannenberger?
Here.
Councilmember Becker?
Here.
Councilmember Hendricks?
Here.
Councilmember Ward? Here. Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Crumpler?
Here.
Mayor Millwamber?
Here. Next, we're going to go to public comment. Do we have any public comment, Madam Clerk?
We had no emailed public comment, but we do have one in-person public comment.
Okay. Public comment is an opportunity for speakers to provide their views and feedback to the city council. It is also an opportunity for the city council to listen and hear diverse points of view. To maximize the impact of public comment and show respect for the expression of all views, speakers should maintain civility and focus on city issues. Speakers must identify themselves for the record, but are not required to give their address. Each speaker is given the floor for 3 minutes, and the council does not respond or engage in debate. Any speaker that engages in threatening or disorderly behavior will be deemed out of order and their time ceased.
We've got Serena Fish.
Good evening. I'm Serena Fish. I'm head of Westside Administrator for Westside Neighbors. I'm on the PSCRB board, member of a few other boards. I'm going to pass along someone that wanted to be here tonight, who is going to be leaving our city. Unfortunately, she ended up in the hospital today, and that's Dee Urban. We're not quite sure yet what happened. It happened about 4 o'clock this afternoon, but she did want to stand up and say goodbye. And hopefully maybe she can make it to the next meeting. I want to thank again the city and Mr. Juergens for cleaning up the trail of the tent cities part, because we literally have seen increased use of the trail lately, which had fallen off to nothing. On the agenda tonight is a presentation of the progress report for Special Commission for Safe Communities. I'd like to recommend, just like we're doing on the PSCRB board, that they spend some time looking at and talking to downtown business owners. It is now getting worse day by day. People that are vagrant or drugs, all the above, are getting antagonistic to where they know no one can tell them no, pretty much. I don't know if any of you heard about the meeting, the parade on Saturday. There was a Jesus parade, which, from what I understand, had no permit. So they're getting very aggressive, they're getting very outspoken, and they're just not backing off. And the people downtown ownership are really starting to get upset. I know there's going to be a walk with the police and some of the public works tomorrow. There is a meeting with Mr. Juergens and downtown ownership tomorrow night. But right now, that is something that you all need to be working on, and for safe communities and all the above. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a
motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Bolin, second by Councilmember Hendricks. Are we using clickers or I'm not seeing them? Well, I guess I don't need one. Okay, thank you. The motion passes. No nays to announce, and we're going to move on to the regular agenda, a presentation on the progress report um, prepared by the Special Commission for Safe Communities as requested by the Special Commission for Safe Communities. And I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Jurgens for introductory remarks.
Thank you, Mayor, and council tonight. Last summer, June 26th, this council approved an ordinance that created a special commission on safe communities. That commission started meeting in November of 2023. Part of the ordinance that was approved required some updates and some progress reports. And so tonight, this is the first progress report that the council will receive. We'll receive that report, and then if there's questions or discussions, there's time for that by the council as well. With that, I'll turn it over to our presenter.
Thank you, Mr. Jurgens. I am Scott Denton. I was the appointed chair of the Special Commission for Safe Communities. I will just go through a quick PowerPoint. I will make it 10 minutes like I was asked to. So we're basically consolidating eight months of work into 10 minutes real quickly. But as background, as Mr. Jurgens said, you have a Chapter 2 Code Section 355, which is the commission. The Special Commission basically has to make a report, so that's why I'm here. So we're filling that mandate for me to do that. Our goals are basically the three things at the bottom. We collect, evaluate, and assess data on gun violence and weapons violations within the Bloomington area. We identify patterns, underlying causes of gun violence and weapons violations within the city of Bloomington. And we provide specific recommendations about how the city might address identified issues. Those are our three mandates per your own section and city code. So we do that. Next slide, please. So these are your commission members that were appointed by the mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for appointing us. It's an excellent group to work with. I'm very impressed with all of my colleagues on this commission. You can see the list there. Mr. Shannon, I believe, is taking a job in Chicago, so he is going to recommend someone also to replace him from Project Oz. But he also has been very, very good, and you'll see why his work was very important, what we found so far. You see ISU, District 87, Carl Broman, YMCA, Mount Pisgah Church, and we have members of the community who are communications experts, counselors, and Assistant Chief Aaron Veerman is our staff, and he is outstanding with information that we collect. So next slide, please. So what we first started doing is Assistant Chief Veerman gave us a lot of information. So this is the data of gun violence, because although it says Special Commission for Safe Communities, gun violence is repeated multiple times in this section. But we haven't held it just to that, but that's what we started with. So in 2024, so far there have been 30 confirmed shootings, and this is the city of Bloomington. This is your commission, so we've stuck to Bloomington. Not Normal or the county, which would expand that. But there have been 30 confirmed shootings to date in 2024 in the city of Bloomington. 2023 was 42, 2022 was 57. Over the last 5 years, we've had 33.5 shootings per year. So we are up as of now for 2024. The average age of known shooters is 22 years of age. The average victim of a gunshot is 18 years of age. And what we found initially is that the perception that there was gang violence or really an organized problem with guns has not shown to be true. There's hybrid gangs which switch affiliations and members constantly, and most of them are from spontaneous altercations, kind of opportunities. They see someone that they're upset with, and they have the opportunity to have a gun on them, and they settle that right away. So next slide, please. So that was important to recognize right away. Most of us know Sergeant Nowers. He is everywhere in the community. He is actually the Bloomington Police Department Community Engagement Unit leader. He has also 4 other part-time officers who help him. But what he does is goes through the community and builds trust and rapport with other agencies. So he will go to parades, other places, and talk about de-escalation training of officers. He talks to school bus drivers, teachers, and Project Oz with how to de-escalate a situation instead of escalating it where gun violence might occur, which we've seen recently in other communities. He stresses the need for really well-educated and I guess, hooked in resource school officers and street crime unit members, because they're on the street, they're in the schools. And we started finding out is these shooters and people who are shot are very young. They're in high schools and they have beefs in high schools, just out of high school too. So the school resource officers is a repetitive theme that we come across over and over again, who are very important people. Next slide, please. Next, Jack McQueen. I can't say enough about Mr. McQueen with the BPD intelligence. He has been around forever in BPD. He is their basically information gatherer. He knows what's going on. He has studied this intensively and gangs and violence. He defines what's going on now is called hybrid gangs, which are basically loosely affiliated groups of young individuals who switch affiliations, and they basically have a few numbers of guns that they have access to that they pass around. And that's what's going on. They have readily available guns to settle disputes. So instead of the old days with fisticuffs or other things, they settle things now with guns. They see someone, they take the gun out and use it. He specifically mentioned, we talked about this, about other communities having shot spotter technology. He says that's really not necessary here, specifically because the citizens of Bloomington, if they hear gunshots, they report it. Other communities don't have that rapport with the police, so they're not always reporting it. So the first instance of gunshots in other communities might be the shot spotter firing. And he basically said the shot spotter cost for each gunshot is about $4,500 per shot. And so that's a very expensive technology to use. He's also said shooter groups communicate through social media extensively. They have their cell phones, they have tablets. So they're able to use that very quickly if they have a beef with someone. That's where the school resource officers can intervene because they hear about this from their kids. They can jump in and try to de-escalate it. YouTube videos are ways they communicate. They make very sophisticated rap type YouTube videos, basically dissing another group or another hybrid gang, which causes escalation, and then it goes back and forth. His big three things that he's into, which I would agree with, I think our commission agreed with, was prevention, intervention, and suppression. So that doesn't get to the point where a gun is actually fired or a gunshot is fired. So if we can prevent this from happening, intervene and suppress it, which the BPD is good in suppression with right now, that's very important. So next slide, please. Sergeant Joe Rizzi, at the time we invited him, there were a series of mass shootings going on in different places. Kentucky, we asked about Uvalde, different things in schools. Basically, so what we learned is that Bloomington Police Department is very well prepared for a mass shooter event that occurs in our community. They have realistic training with role players who are teachers. They have annual training requirement for all the participants, so they are well trained and continually trained. School resource officers are also excellent eyes and ears. And I just underline that because that's what we keep hearing now, is that interrupting gun violence in our community, the school resource officers are very, very integral in that. So next one. Some commission members were very interested in suicide, not just for homicidal violence or suicidal violence, which is violence against oneself. We invited Coroner Kathleen Yoder to talk about suicide. She gave a lot of statistics. Basically, it boiled down to most people who commit suicide are older white males. Most means of suicide are not guns, except for 2 years, 2020 and 2023. Those were 63 and 62% of suicides. But it's mostly older white males who commit suicide by all means. Dr. Adam Carter of PATH talked right after her. He stressed the use of the 988 number, Prevention and Mental Health Crisis Hotline. There's a 211 resource support line, which is local. And then basically he said 47% of suicides occur within 10 minutes of suicidal thoughts. So what his point was that guns in a person's environment within that 10 minutes were a very lethal and immediate means of suicide, where other means took more time. So maybe that 10 minutes was a critical factor. And again, he said in the demographic group of 45-year-old males and above, Firearms, suicides were greater than homicides in the 45 years and up. And middle-aged men, ironically, were the least likely to call 988. So they're the ones that are suffering suicides in the highest rate, and they are the ones not using the 988 number. So next. Karen Irvin is another community activist who is very instrumental in being everywhere. She was a spokesperson for Moms Demand Action, or MDA. They have interactions everywhere. They help survivor mothers, which are very vocal people who their sons and daughters die of homicides. The mothers are left behind, and Moms Demand Action incorporate them and use them to help and try to help their grieving. She pointed out that 120 people in our country die of gunshot wounds every day. That's a staggering number. They're committed to something called gun sense legislation, which is enforcing gun laws that are on the books. They're not really trying to get new laws, but they want to enforce the gun laws we have, which are basically designed to keep guns out of the hands of people who should not have them, or guns that are illegally obtained should be taken away. They said they have respect for responsible gun owners, which our commission also has that at the utmost also. They're active in every state and every community. So she was basically a very good grassroots source of information for us all. Next. So what else have we done? So in addition to having speakers and getting information and gathering information like our mandate said, we have academic research articles. We have an ISU criminal justice professor on our committee. We reviewed scholarly papers on causes of gunshot violence. The U.S. Department of Justice has massive amounts of information on gunshot violence. If you can actually get lost in the amount of information on the internet with gun violence in the DOJ, NIJ website. The U.S. Surgeon General recently has declared gun violence a public health crisis. And then what was interesting, we reviewed an article from the Cook County Sheriff, Dart, who basically did research and found that 74% of FOID, which is firearms owner identification card revocations for mental illness, felony convictions, those weapons were not being turned in. There was no record of that. And that's in charge of the state police. So people who have mental illness, convicted of felonies, by and large, 3/4 are not turning in their weapons when they should be. And there's really no means to make them do that if it's not voluntarily. So we thought that was kind of interesting. Next. So the future. So what do we look for in the future? We've got another year and a little bit less than a year and a half to go. There's a program we're very interested in. It's called NIBIN, National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. It's an ATF program. Bloomington Police Department is going to have a local terminal so they can take actually the bullets or the cartridges that are fired, put that in the machine right away, get data back, and see if these guns that are being passed around are used in different crimes, which they're starting to find out that one gun is being used in multiple situations. And so if we get that gun out of the way, we won't have those multiple situations. So it can connect multiple shooters and guns to other crime scenes. Bloomington Police Department did a gun buyback program. I don't know if you know the stats for that. They took in 217 guns were bought back, and they gave out 312 gun safes to people that drove through. Future invited speakers, what the commission is interested in going forward and listening to. School resource officers, again, they come up over and over again. So we want to hear what they have to say. How do they interrupt gun violence? Because they need support. There's high school counseling groups. The Western Avenue Community Center was recommended as someone we should talk to. Ms. Fish is at all our meetings, and we always are interested to hear her comments at the beginning. The Boys and Girls Club, the NAACP, and justice system representatives in McLean County, both for the public defender and the state attorney, we'd like to hear from at some point if they're interested in talking to us. There is a fall convention coming up here in Bloomington called Envisioning Justice, which Commissioner Selman will be involved with, that she wanted us to be aware of. So that's our future. So that's our summary. So what we are doing are the things I've underlined. We're collecting, evaluating, and assessing data. We're identifying patterns, underlying causes. And in the future, we hope to provide you with what you've also asked for, is a specific report at the end of 2 years that we can give you. And that's what we want to do. So we hope to do that. It's a little difficult doing that, meeting once a month for 2 hours a month, and then also following the Opens Meeting Act, which we are trying to do. But it's not easy to write a report or have all these people together who have all this information and get a report when we only can meet 2 hours a month and we can't talk outside the meeting. So that is our limitation. But thank you for your attention and thanks for having this commission.
Thank you very much, Scott, for not only the report, but also all the work that you've done. I realize that it's not easy to get going. I think this commission had a bit of a rough start trying to get people on the board, especially when it's new. But we certainly appreciate the work that you've done so far and look forward to more. And I'm gonna ask council members if they have any questions, comments. I see Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Dr. Denton, for this interim report. Thank you to Assistant Chief Veerman and all the volunteer commissioners who actually quite readily volunteered and quite eagerly volunteered to fill this commission to completion. Thank you for your willingness to give your time for the sake of making our community a safer place. Some have questioned over the last few years whether we need your work, considering that we had not a single gun homicide in Bloomington last year. But this weekend's events in Northwest Bloomington underscore why we need this special commission. I'm referring, of course, to the multiple shots that were fired just before 9 p.m. Friday, hitting a person, a car, and a house. And while Friday's injuries have been characterized as non-life threatening, I don't know about anybody else, but I most certainly felt life threatened by random bullets flying around my neighborhood. I most certainly felt life threatened hearing that a human being's body had been pierced by 2 of those bullets. I most certainly felt life threatened seeing that another neighbor's car window had been blown out by 1 of those bullets. I most certainly felt life threatened as the 1/4 inch glass over my own front door shattered and scattered a dozen feet into my house when 1 of those bullets crashed into my own house, just a few steps from where my own family was relaxing on a rainy but otherwise peaceful night at home. My point is that the problem of gun violence in our community is not only measured by the number of gun homicides in our community. The fear of random violence destroys communities in ways that aren't always measurable on a heat map of crime. And the trauma of witnessing violence scars people in ways that aren't always visible. As a friend pointed out over the weekend, you don't necessarily need to take a life to take life out of a community or out of a person. I am deeply, deeply grateful to the members of the Bloomington Police Department, not only for their speedy, but for their empathic response when gun violence attacked my neighborhood. Patrol Officer Alexis Swartztruber not only quickly identified the bullet that defiled my home, but also showed kindness and compassion. Lieutenant Todd McCluskey not only kept us informed, but showed respect and offered reassurance. Crime scene detective Marty Krylowitz not only efficiently gathered evidence, but stood on a ladder at midnight in my entryway to tape up our broken window. Chief Jamal Symington not only gave good oversight to all of this good work, but he named what happened for what it was, a violation of sacred space. That is my family's home and my family's neighborhood. But you know what? It's not anymore a violation of my home and my neighborhood than it is of all of our community. Because what randomly happened to us in Northwest Bloomington can happen to any of us in this room, on this dais. And we as a city council have an obligation to ensure that it stops with us. Because as top-notch as our police department is in solving crimes, and hear me, I am grateful to you. As top-notch as they are, we council members cannot wash our hands as council members and just dump it on law enforcement to prevent the larger societal issues, to address the larger societal issues that lead to the kinds of violations that happened at the corner of Madison and Graham last Friday. To that end, I implore you, my colleagues, to support the continuing work of the Special Commission for Safe Communities.
Thank you. Councilmember Bolin. I said Bolin.
Oh.
No, Bolin.
I'm very sad that that happened to you. I can imagine. It did happen to me in Chicago, but that's Chicago, so. I understand at the next meeting that you are having Stephanie Barish come and speak. Am I correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. She's in charge of family and youth and family services in the community.
Yes.
She's excellent at what she does.
Good.
She also serves at the state level, and she's on the BHCC. So she does offer a lot of information, and she keeps the BHCC, how can I put this? With her background, broad background, she kind of wraps the BHCC together to keep things like justice involved. Keep kids, I don't want to say off the street, but counsel them, wraparound services. And I think that that's what the community is doing on the county level. And even your report has kind of shown that. It's not going to get rid of everything, but I think that what you have reported is positive. And I would like to see it continue as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. There- Okay. So I do have a couple of questions that
Sure.
I wanted to ask. Hopefully I didn't miss this. I didn't hear anything about domestic violence. Is that an area that you've looked into or?
We have, we're all aware of a recent incident in Normal with beloved teacher Amy Moore. We have to be careful, but, we're an Open Meetings Act, so everything we say is recorded. But yes, we talked about domestic violence, and it is, although it's relatively, again, as Commissioner Ward said, it's relatively rare, but it's devastating. It affects the whole community. So yes, we talked about domestic violence and how it can cause ripple effects, like a stone being dropped in water. The waves go through the whole community. So yes, we want to try to prevent that also and see, there are warning signs. There's research about domestic violence. I mean, there are patterns of men who kill their families and their spouses or their significant others. There are certain patterns. But there are also civil rights we have to write about civil rights. Do you go after that person beforehand or not? So yes, there are things we're going to look at for that for sure.
Okay. Another question that I have is just to kind of get a sense of, how we compare with other communities.
We do actually very well. So Jack McQueen went through some data that also about like relative other sizes of communities to the west and east of us and south of us who are similar size. We have about half the gun violence that they do. So we are actually a very good pocket, and we're actually a very relatively safe pocket. Doesn't mean we're great, as Commissioner Ward said, but we are a safer pocket than those comparable cities around us.
Mayor, we're out of
Time.
time. Did you want to
Okay.
extend the council discussion
I
time?
don't know if council members have anything to add or anything. No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Definitely appreciate it. And Councilmember Ward and I had an opportunity to discuss this over the weekend as well for a particular incident. And again, it's I don't even know if the word unfortunate is strong enough. It's almost, it's tragic, but hoping that we, together and with the commission, that we're able to not only gather information, but also move forward in a direction that makes the community safer. So definitely appreciate the work that you're doing. I think it's very important. I learned a lot about things that most don't necessarily know about. So it's important for us to delve into it. Thank you very much to you and the rest of the commission members as well.
Yeah, thank you. I do feel that there's a sincere desire of the commission and all our speakers that we've had so far to really improve things. And so it's an honest, sincere kind of volunteer spirit for our own community that we live in. So, but thank you for allowing us to do this.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation by the Bloomington Bison head coach, Philip Barsky, on the upcoming inaugural season. The man who says he doesn't get up and speak in front of people often, but then he gives like a super amazing speech, at the introduction. So now let's get ready for you to amaze us again.
Hello. I think that's called luck. That's what I think that was. My name's Philip Barsky. I'm the general manager and head coach of the Bloomington Bison, your expansion ECHL hockey team. If you go to the next slide here, please. It was 80 days ago that I got hired, and I sort of put this presentation together for you. I titled four subsections: the problem, which I'll walk you through, the 5-part solution, some of our player signings, and then some of the things that we've done in the community up to date, and then some of the things that we'd like to, obviously build on as we get prepared for our inaugural season here. Next slide, please. So the problem, the best way I can describe this to you, if you look at the National Hockey League, and you're an expansion team, you have an expansion draft where you can take players from other teams. You can find undervalued assets. With us, we were in an asset business without any assets. We had no players, we had no expansion draft. And then if you extrapolate that a little further, the past 2 expansion teams finished last in their division in their first year. You can see Savannah there and Iowa in recent history. So that's kind of what we were up against. When I looked at this, I thought, okay, if we do the status quo, why will we get any different results? So next slide, please. What I kind of started to do, I created a 5-part solution. I think at the core of my leadership beliefs are that leaders create leaders. So if you go to the next slide, please. The term that kept coming up for me in my mind was this idea of shouldering the responsibility, similar to as I see you guys here operate as a council. I thought I really needed to surround myself with very competent and good people. Very quickly, I hired Dan Larmer as our assistant GM, Jesse Messier as our assistant coach, Jesse Cook as our strength and conditioning coach. We ended up building out an analytics department with Larkin Lee and Greg Bushin, and then we hired an equipment manager. And these guys were really important in early days to help me build out this organization. If you go to the next slide, please. So understanding our competitive advantage, when I sort of got into this, one of my mentors said to me very early on, if you try and be everything to everybody, you're going to end up being nothing to nobody. The fact that I had just come from the Ontario Hockey League, I was an associate coach with the Barrie Colts. Dan Larmer's been a scout with the Peterborough Petes for 10 years. He's won an OHL championship 2 years ago, and he's won multiple banners. Jesse Messier was an assistant coach with the Saginaw Spirit in the Ontario Hockey League. He's won multiple banners, and last year the Saginaw won the 2024 Memorial Cup. Mess actually wasn't a part of it. He took a head coaching job. And then this idea of analytic modeling. And just to share with you, in 2014, I went back to school. I did a master's degree. My thesis was on analytics and hockey. At that time, it was kind of the hot button topic. I thought it would be, a way for me to differentiate myself. So if you go to the next clip here, the next slide, building out our analytical model. And just because I just want to clarify this. So the OHL is the Ontario Hockey League. The CHL, which is the Canadian Hockey League, encompasses the Ontario Hockey League, the Western Hockey League, and the QMJHL, the Quebec Hockey League. But even within that league, Americans play in those leagues. So it's not just a Canadian-focused approach here. We do have a lot of Americans on the team, but what our analytical model was able to do, it's a predictive model that we're going to work to grow out over the next 3 or 4 years. But we measured point rate projection, which was just a way that a player can impact the game in the offensive zone to create scoring chances for his line mates or himself. Shot rate projection was a metric that we built on that had to do with your ability to get a puck to the net and how hard it hit the net and how much chaos or rebounds it created for your teammates and your line mates. And then what we were able to do from that was, with some certainty, we think, was to be able to create a model of projected points per player. And the average ECHL player has 30 points. And then we were able to, or we think we were able to, we'll figure that out quite soon here, but we were able to build out a model and target players that other teams hadn't identified. So if you go to the next slide here, the next part of this was, how do we put it all together? So any success that I've had in my life, whether it was in the business world or in the hockey world, came down to proper planning and organization. So what Jesse and Dan what we would do every morning, we meet every morning for an information sharing session. We set goals for each day. We review and build those. What we would do is we would review and build out our internal player database. I'm proud to share today, 80 days in, we're about 600 players that we've evaluated and identified some really good players to bring into this organization and also bring into this city. We also then would evaluate and on our progress and success. And as a leader, I think it's really important to not only empower your people that you work with, that you surround yourself with, but also really spotlight and share the good work that they're doing. So when we signed a player, we have a group chat and I'd say, hey, we signed so-and-so and you guys did a heck of a job, and, really make them feel like a part of it. And then lastly, what we do is, with our whole organization and our CFO and our CEO, Larry and Jeff, they participate in these, and Josh, our equipment manager, weekly Zoom calls with our front office staff. And that way, I thought it was a good way for us to stay aligned as an organization, give everyone updates, and make everyone feel like they're a part of what we are building here. So next slide, please. And then, everyone keeps asking me, like, how are you recruiting these players to Bloomington, right? Nobody is really familiar with this town, with this incredible town. And so we had to create, and my assistant coach, Jesse Messier, created it. We created a Bloomington Bison information package that we could send out to the players, spotlighting some of the great things. I think we lead like all cities in America and most restaurants per capita. And, we found some great restaurants downtown. There's a ton of parks here. There's a lake. There's Bloomington Lake, I believe. We've got a bunch of things here that we were able to sort of piece together and put together to really spotlight all the things that make this city so incredible. And then we got lucky on a few things that really we didn't know about until we really dug into this. We've got incredible travel within our division. So our players that come to play here, they will not have too much wear and tear on their bodies. We have a lot of like 4 hours or 3 hours less travel time in and out. We also learned that we also gain an hour because of the time difference. So we think that's a little bit of a competitive advantage for us moving forward here. We'll take any advantage we can get, as you can see. Then also our location to the AHL. Our league is all about promotion, promoting players, getting them to higher levels. Turns out we've got Milwaukee, we got Rockford, we got Chicago, we've got Iowa, we've got a lot of AHL teams that are very close call-ups. So that was something we really wanted to spotlight to our players to differentiate our organization from all of our competitors. I've already touched on the accommodations and hospitality. Our CFO was able to get great apartments for our players. They're 4 miles from the rink. I'm going to meet them later on this week. And that's something that's really important to professional hockey players. They want to feel really good about where they're living. Sometimes they're not making a ton of money. They're kind of chasing their dreams. So the amenities is another way that we felt as an organization that we could really differentiate ourselves. And then lastly, and definitely not least, Grossinger Motor Arena. The bowl is great. The rink is great. I think it's a great venue for fans to come and see. Underneath was a little dated, and by a little, I probably mean a lot. But again, we've worked with the city on this. You guys have been incredible. I'm really proud to share today, especially in a venue like this with City Council. We've hired all local companies to help with this renovation, which is something that was hugely important to our ownership group, Jim and his son, Sean, and obviously our CFO and our CEO. And this is something that, again, they talk a lot about, especially in the National Hockey League, that you want the arena to be a destination. You want your athletes to want to be there. And based on, our relationships with the city and the local contractors, we feel very fortunate that we're going to be able to execute on this. And that's something that really will, again, be a separator for us for many years to come and fill that arena with good hockey players and good people. Next slide, please. Player signings. So although we've only announced 3 player signings, that's partly, well, not partly, that's almost exclusively because we're an expansion team and we just hired the person 3 weeks ago that could do those things. I'm not that qualified to do that. So in actuality, we've announced 3 signings, but we've actually signed 24 players and we have 4 players coming here on PTOs. And I'm really proud to share this. We've actually signed 2 import players. I won't reveal their names right now, but we have a player coming from Sweden, and we actually have a player coming from Korea, which we think will be a great sort of, again, showcase for the great things that we're doing in Bloomington. Next slide, please. These are the players that we've announced thus far: Dalton Duhart, Riley Webb. Riley Webb was drafted 6th round to the Detroit Red Wings. He's a 6'4", really big, really tough to play against defensemen. Dante Fantauzi played 4 years in the United States at Sacred Heart University. He's decided to come on board. And like I said, these are 3 of 24 players that we've signed and another few guys on PTOs. A PTO is a professional tryout agreement. They're excited to come and show their stuff and compete for a spot in October. Next slide, please. Bison community. When I met the mayor 80 days ago and I met Jeff, I've been in some non-traditional hockey markets. This one's kind of a little bit different, but still, nevertheless, I think the more that we can get into the community, the more that we can connect our athletes with this great community and the citizens and the business leaders, the more we'll benefit from that and the more beneficial it'll be to the city. And what I mean by that is, you know, for me, it's very difficult to recruit. There's 30 other really good GMs in our league, and we're all fighting for the same talent. The more, you know, players love to play in front of a packed house. It's something, again, it gives them that like professional feel, and it's something that really motivates them. And then obviously word travels quick. So it's really important for us to have that, you know, what can we contribute to the situation, not what can we get out of this situation. And that's something that we're really going to stress to our players when they come here for training camp at the beginning of October. Next slide, please. These are things that, and just in full disclosure, my wife and I bought a house here in Bloomington. We're all in on the community and this opportunity that we've been presented with. We just moved into our house on Saturday. So I wasn't at these events. I was building this team remotely in a few different venues. But these are some things. That's actually me in the lower left slide. I was there this weekend. I guess there was a jazz festival, and I was teaching some kids how to shoot a puck, and they were fortunate enough to take that picture so I could put this into this presentation. But these other things, I guess what I'm really trying to share is we've already started these things. Obviously, getting the players here will give us 20 more, you know, bodies to really push our message and really showcase how involved we want to be in the community. And I just really appreciate, you know, Jeff inviting me here to share with you, you know, our process, where we think we've grown as an organization over the last 80 days. And there's just really big things to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know, Jeff, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, just quickly before there are any council comments or questions, I want to thank Coach Barsky and his wife for coming tonight. Moved here from Canada, I believe, correct? And Coach Barsky's been all over the world coaching and doing different things. Every time he presents, he's a very impressive guy, and I think he's going to be a great addition to our community. So really appreciate him coming here. I think just a couple of things. One, wanted the community and the council, again, every time we can remind people that this isn't just a little club that's coming to town. This is a professional organization with professional players and professional coaches and professionals that are in this corporation. It's going to be really exciting. One of the first conversations I had with Jim Hallett, the owner of Hallett Sports and the owner of this hockey club, I asked him, you know, so since this is a new team, or, you know, is it going to take a while? Is it going to take a couple of years before they're good? And right away, without missing a beat, he said, oh no, he goes, we're going to be good right out of the gate. So it's exciting to ask Coach Barsky, okay, come tell us how you're going to be good right out of the gate. And he knows that because Jim Hallett told him the same thing. He's got the same expectations. So it's good that the coach has a plan, and have no doubt that they're going to bring quality hockey to the arena. And we're very excited about that. The first preseason game will be October 12th against the Indy Fuel here at the arena. And then the season opener is at October 26th.
No, it's Saturday, October 19th.
October
against
19th
Toledo. Yeah.
will be the home opener. So we're right around the corner, about 60 days until we get to that home opener, the first game of the season. So we're excited about that. And again, thank you, Coach, for coming, and look forward to you being around the community and sharing the message with others. So thank you.
It's great. Thank you for having me. And to touch on what Jeff's just said, and I didn't put it in the presentation, but we are affiliated. We're a dual affiliate now. We have an affiliation with the New York Rangers through the Hartford Wolfpack, and we've got a working agreement with the Carolina Hurricanes through the Chicago Wolves. So there will be some really top-notch players here, and there'll be some really top-notch hockey that you and your families can share in.
Just real quick, the last update I had, and it's been a couple weeks, I think they had over 700 season tickets sold. So they're very happy with that. And that's not just, you know, signing up for interest, that's actual tickets sold, season tickets. So they're getting their, you know, marketing people in place. They're getting their ticket people in place. So really looking forward to seeing this organization get off the ground.
Yeah, and you know, I've been in this league 2 years before. Between 2020 and 2022, I was with the Greenville Swamp Rabbits in this very league. I've sat on multiple Zoom calls with our commissioner, Ryan Creelan, you know, and I've heard some unfortunate things here today with, you know, whether it's gun violence or whatever. The one thing that I know this league really stresses is that community involvement, and something that, you know, maybe this Bison organization can be the thing that brings the community together and create some bonds that maybe will eliminate some of these, you know, terrible things that are happening in the community.
Thank you. Are there questions from council? No, well, thank you very much. We very much look forward to the season starting. Can't wait. We have I've been telling everybody wherever I go, that this is really it's the real deal, and looking forward to everything that you can do. I'm very excited. There's a palpable excitement from what I can tell in the community that we haven't seen before.
Thanks again
Yeah,
for having
thank you. Let's see. Okay, we are going to move on to city manager's discussion.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Two things that I talk about a lot when I'm out speaking with other groups. One is how we have to keep this community a safe community and quality of place. And those are two things we've touched on tonight. So appreciate those conversations. And appreciate that we keep our foot on the gas when it comes to safety in our community. Even one shooting is too many, so anything we can do to help continue to keep this community safe is important to us, and I know to all of you. And then also quality of place, making this a place where people want to live, raise their families, making sure we've got things for people to do is also very important. So appreciate the conversation on the upcoming season of the Bison. Next slide. Just a couple of things tonight. First, I wanted to give a quick employee update. Sue McLaughlin, our new deputy city manager, started today. She's here with us. Wanted to welcome Sue. We've been keeping her busy all day, all kinds of conversations and meetings, and I have no doubt she's going to help us with some very important projects and help move things forward. So really look forward to working with Sue and welcome her to the city. And then also wanted to introduce formally Wayne Carl, who started about 5 or 6 weeks ago as our new interim director of operations and engineering services. Wayne was retired. We pulled him out of retirement to come help us at the city and provide some additional new ideas, some new work, and help with some different workflows with our engineering and operations department. We've got great employees, and we have long-term employees in those departments, and it's great for Wayne to be in addition there and help move those employees forward as well. So just wanted to welcome Sue and Wayne formally to the city. Next slide, please. At the September Committee of the Whole, we're going to start a new thing where we present on all of the different events and different things that we have during the summer, kind of a summer wrap up. We won't touch on every single thing because we'd literally be here for probably days. But we do so much during the summer that I thought it was important to highlight some of the things. Just as a preview, the summer read program that the library puts on is wrapping up. They had over 5,100 individuals finish that program. That beat their old record that they set in 2016 by almost 13%. So a very successful program. You can see a picture up here. You can win a donut and some other things. So you see some happy kids with their success from the program. Next slide. And then finally tonight, just want to recognize our PD again. They do a lot in the community, a lot of community engagement. This last weekend, Chief Symington threw out the first pitch at the Miracle League home opener. Not just Chief Symington, but there were some other officers there as well. And again, just want to say my appreciation for all they do and all the work that they do to get out in the community. And that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Bolin, second by
Second.
Councilmember Hendricks. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. See you next Monday.